The space station floated above a silent gray planet. Cold and lifeless, it was a human research and mining base, built to study minerals and alien life forms found in the ruins below. Most of the crew had been working for months without rest, dreaming only of going home. Everything was quiet that day, too quiet until the sound began. At first it was a low hum, like metal bending under pressure. Then it grew louder, deeper, turning into a powerful roar that shook every hallway. Tools fell, alarms screamed, and people ran, covering their ears. The sound wasn't from the engines or any machine. It was something alive, something in pain. The noise came from Hangar 9, the most restricted area of the station. That hangar held something rare and dangerous. An alien dragon, massive and ancient. She had been rescued from a burning planet 3 weeks ago. The humans had taken her in, not knowing she was pregnant. Now she was awake, and her hatchlings had been born. The mother dragon was beautiful but terrifying, her scales shining like black glass mixed with gold. Her wings, folded tightly, could crush a small ship if opened wide. Her eyes were deep amber, glowing faintly in the dim light. Around her lay 3 small hatchlings. Tiny but full of energy, they cried and cried, their voices high-pitched and sharp like shattered glass. No one could calm them, not even the mother. The scientists watched from behind a thick glass barrier. They whispered to each other, unsure what to do. The mother dragon moved her wings and tail in panic, trying to pull her babies close, but every time she touched them, they screamed louder. Her cries turned into thunder that echoed through the metal walls. A team of guards arrived, ready with tranquilizer rifles. The commander shouted for everyone to hold position. He didn't want to hurt the creature, but the noise could tear the station apart. Even the air vibrated, shaking lights and monitors. Someone suggested venting the hangar, releasing the air to silence the cries, but another shouted that it would kill the hatchlings. Panic spread like fire. In the middle of all this chaos, a man stepped out from a maintenance corridor. He wore a faded gray uniform, with a mop and cleaning pack slung over his shoulder. His name was Eli, the janitor. Nobody noticed him at first because nobody ever did. He was quiet, kept to himself, and always worked late when the halls were empty. Eli looked around, confused by the alarms and flashing lights. He was just supposed to clean up an oil spill near the hangar. But now he found himself standing a few meters from a raging alien mother and her screaming young. "Hey, you! Get out of there!" the commander yelled. But Eli didn't move. Something about the cries pierced his heart. They weren't just noise, they were pain, fear, loneliness. And something inside him recognized that feeling. He took a slow step closer to the viewing glass. The scientists panicked, shouting at him to stay back. The mother dragon lifted her head, her eyes locking onto him. The entire station seemed to go silent for a second. Only the low hum of power systems filled the air. Eli froze, feeling her gaze sink into him like fire. Then suddenly the hatchlings stopped crying. The silence was so deep that it made everyone stop breathing. The alarms still blinked, but no one could hear them. The tiny dragons looked toward the glass, their eyes glowing faint blue. The mother dragon tilted her head slightly, making a soft rumbling sound. It wasn't anger anymore. It was something different. Curiosity, maybe even recognition. Eli felt his heart beating fast. He didn't know what he was doing. But he stepped forward again. He placed his hand on the glass. Slowly, carefully, on the other side, the mother dragon lowered her massive snout toward the same spot. For a moment, they stood still, a human janitor and a creature from another world. Everyone in the control room stared, unable to believe what they were seeing. The hatchlings made soft chirping noises. Calm for the first time, the mother dragon breathed slowly, her chest rising and falling like ocean waves. Eli whispered softly, not sure why. "It's okay. It's all right." His voice was gentle. Like a parent talking to a scared child, he didn't expect her to understand. But the dragon blinked slowly, as if she did. One of the scientists whispered, "How is that possible?" Another said, "Maybe he has the same emotional pattern. Maybe she feels it." Nobody dared to move, afraid to break the strange peace. The commander lowered his rifle, watching through the glass. He had seen battles, deaths, alien wars, but never anything like this. Eli stood there, his hand still on the glass. For the first time in years, he didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel like the forgotten man who swept floors. He felt seen, understood. Not by humans, but by something far older. He didn't know it yet, But this moment would change the fate of the entire station, and maybe of both their species. Behind the silence, the deep hum of life support systems filled the air again. The scientists began whispering fast. Taking notes and readings, the commander called for calm. Ordering everyone to stand down, Eli slowly stepped back, unsure if he should leave, but as he turned to go, a sound came again, not loud this time. Not angry. It was a low purr, soft and warm. Coming from the dragon herself, the mother dragon had never made that sound before. Her eyes followed Eli as he walked away, and her hatchlings pressed closer to her side. The danger seemed to fade from the air, replaced by a strange peace. No one could explain it. Not even the smartest scientists. But everyone on that space station that day knew one thing for sure. Something had just happened between man and monster. Something that defied all logic and reason. And it all began with a janitor who refused to run. The alarms went quiet, but the station didn't rest. Everyone in the command deck spoke at once, voices mixing with confusion and fear. Screens showed camera angles of the hangar, where the mother dragon now lay still, her head resting beside her hatchlings. The noise had stopped, the danger was gone, but nobody understood why. And all eyes turned to one man, the janitor, Eli. He stood near the observation glass, breathing slowly, his face pale under the blue emergency lights. He didn't know what to say. He had no reason to be there, no training, no orders. He was just supposed to clean up oil spills, fix clogged vents, and stay out of the way, but somehow he had done what the best scientists, doctors, and soldiers couldn't. He had calmed the alien dragon. The commander stormed toward him, his boots echoing against the floor. "What were you thinking?" he shouted, grabbing Eli's shoulder. "You could have gotten yourself killed. You broke containment protocol." Eli didn't argue. He just looked through the glass. The dragon was still watching him, her golden eyes glowing faintly like twin suns. She wasn't angry. She wasn't afraid. She was curious, maybe even calm. The scientists started checking readings, one of them said. Her heart rate dropped the moment he approached, another whispered. Empathy response, maybe. Or memory link. The commander frowned. Are you saying she recognized him? No one answered because no one could explain it. Eli rubbed his hands together, trying to steady them. He couldn't stop thinking about the sound the hatchlings made before he touched the glass. It wasn't just noise. It was a cry that carried sadness, fear, and loneliness. He knew that feeling too well years ago. Before he came to the station, he had lost his daughter. A sickness took her while he was working far away. He never forgave himself. Since then, he spoke little, smiled rarely, and lived like a ghost in the background of others' lives. When the dragon cried, he heard that same pain. It wasn't alien to him, it was human, it was familiar. He didn't understand how, but somehow their feelings touched. It was like invisible strings tied between hearts across two species. The commander called for medical and security scans. Make sure he's not infected, not carrying anything from that hangar, he ordered. They brought scanners and lights, checking Eli's temperature, blood, and skin. Everything was normal, perfectly human. No sign of alien contact, no contamination, but there was something different in Eli's eyes now. Something calm, something deep. Commander, said Dr. Mira, the xenobiologist, I think he should stay under observation. He may have a unique emotional signature that the dragon responds to. The commander scoffed. He's a janitor, not a telepath, Dr. Mira replied softly. Maybe he doesn't need to be. Later that night, Eli sat in the small observation room alone. The glass wall separated him from the hangar. The mother dragon lay near her hatchlings, all three sleeping under her wing. Soft breathing sounds echoed through the speakers. The lights dimmed, turning the metal room into shades of silver and blue. Eli sat in silence, watching them. He should have been afraid, but he wasn't. Instead, he felt peaceful, almost safe. He leaned closer to the glass and whispered, You just wanted someone to listen, didn't you? The dragon opened one eye. Glowing faintly in the dark, her pupils narrowed. Focusing on him, then softly, a deep hum came through the air. Low, rhythmic, almost like a song. It wasn't random noise, it was something else. It made Eli's chest feel warm, like he could sense her emotions without words. It was sorrow mixed with trust, a strange kind of understanding. Suddenly, the door behind him opened. Dr. Mira entered quietly, carrying a small scanner. I knew you'd come back here, she said gently. Eli nodded. Couldn't sleep? She looked through the glass and sighed. Neither can she. They stood side by side, human and scientist, watching a creature older and larger than both of them. "She's a mother who lost everything," Mira said. "Her world was dying when we found her. She fought to save her eggs." Eli lowered his head. "And we took her away from it." Mira didn't answer. She just kept watching, then she whispered, "But maybe she found something else here." Eli turned to her, confused. "She reacted to your presence," Mira explained. "That's not coincidence. Her kind communicates through emotional resonance, not words. When you stepped closer, your emotions reached her like a signal." Eli blinked. "You mean she could feel what I felt?" "Yes," Mira said. "And you could feel her." For a moment, neither of them spoke through the glass. The mother dragon began to hum again. The hatchling stirred under her wings, chirping softly. The sound filled the room like a lullaby from another world. Mira smiled faintly. "She trusts you." Eli looked at her and whispered, "Then maybe she's not the monster we think she is." Outside, the cold light of distant stars painted silver lines across the hangar walls. The station floated in silence, far from Earth, surrounded by darkness, but inside that hangar, something new was born. Not a creature, not a weapon, but a bond. A fragile connection between two broken hearts that had found each other. The humans still called him the Janitor, but soon, the universe would know him as something far more. The human who shouldn't have been there, but who changed everything. The next morning, the space station was quiet again. The alarms had stopped, the lights were steady, and the air was still. But something had changed, everyone could feel it. The crew moved carefully, whispering like people in a temple. No one dared disturb the peace in Hangar 9, because the creature that once shook the walls was now calm, and everyone knew it had something to do with the human janitor. Eli. The scientists gathered around the viewing deck. Taking notes and readings, the mother dragon rested. Her wings folded around her hatchlings like a living shield. Soft humming sounds came from her chest, deep and gentle even through the glass. It felt like warmth in the cold air, and beside her, Eli sat cross-legged on the floor, silent, calm, and strangely peaceful. They had allowed him to enter again. Under Dr. Mira's supervision, the commander had protested, but the dragon's reaction left him no choice. When Eli was there, she stayed quiet. When he left, she became restless again. It was as if something invisible tied them together, a silent thread of emotion that no machine could measure. Eli looked up at the giant creature in front of him. Her scales shimmered like wet stone under the station's white light. Her eyes watched him closely, not with hunger or anger, but with something softer, understanding, maybe even affection. He didn't move too much, only spoke in a low voice. "It's all right." "I'm here," he whispered. The mother dragon blinked slowly, her pupils widening and narrowing in rhythm with his voice. One of the hatchlings crawled closer, chirping softly. Eli reached out his hand, not touching, just letting it hover in the air. The tiny dragon tilted its head, then placed its small snout against his palm. Everyone watching gasped. Dr. Mira's voice trembled. "She's letting him touch them." The commander crossed his arms. "That's not possible." But it was. The connection had gone beyond sight, beyond sound, beyond fear. It was something unseen, something ancient. The hatchling's skin was warm, almost hot, like holding a sun in your hands. Eli could feel the heartbeat, fast, strong, alive. For a moment, the world around him faded. He didn't see the walls, the lights, or the scientists. He only saw her, the mother dragon. Through his mind, he felt a sudden rush of images, flashes of fire, of a burning world, of screams and thunder. He saw mountains collapsing, rivers of light flowing. He saw her flying through storms, protecting glowing eggs under her wings. Then, high pain, he saw the moment humans found her, trapped her, lifted her from her dying home, and the feeling hit him like lightning. Grief, loss, and endless sorrow. Eli gasped and fell to his knees. Clutching his head, Dr. Mira ran to him, shouting for medical help. But before anyone could reach him, he raised his hand weakly. "Don't, she's showing me something." The mother dragon leaned closer, her eyes glowing brighter. It wasn't an attack, it was communication. She was sharing her memories, her emotions, her truth. When the images faded, Eli's eyes filled with tears. He looked at her and whispered, "You lost everything." The dragon lowered her head. Touching the floor beside him, her breath came out like a soft wind. The hatchlings chirped again, sensing the emotion in the air. Dr. Mira stared in disbelief. He's not just calming her. He's linked to her. Eli wiped his tears and smiled faintly. She's just a mother trying to keep her children safe. The commander looked at him through the glass, his face unreadable. She's an alien, he said. Not some pet. Eli turned his head slightly. And we're not gods. The room fell silent. Even the commander had no answer. For hours, Eli stayed with the dragon. Sometimes he spoke softly. Sometimes he sat in silence. But through that silence, something passed between them. A feeling, a bond. The sensors around the hangar recorded unusual readings. Waves of low-frequency energy, pulsing gently every few seconds. Dr. Mira checked the data and whispered, "It's not random." These pulses match his heart rate. The others leaned closer to see. Eli's emotional state, calm, steady, and empathetic, seemed to synchronize with the creatures. Their breathing matched, their heart rhythms aligned. It was like two different beings sharing one quiet heartbeat. Later, when Eli left the hangar for rest, the hatchlings cried again. Their cries echoed through the walls, shaking instruments and monitors. The mother dragon roared, restless and anxious. Eli stopped in the hallway, turned back, and placed his hand on the hangar door. Instantly, the crying stopped. The crew stared at each other in silence. There was no doubt now the connection was real, invisible, but powerful. That night, Eli sat in the observation room, unable to sleep. The stars outside looked endless, like tiny eyes watching him. He felt the dragon's emotions still inside his chest, faint but warm. It wasn't telepathy, it wasn't magic, it was empathy, magnified 1,000 times by something neither human nor dragon could explain. Dr. Mira entered quietly and handed him a warm cup. "You should rest," she said. Eli shook his head. "I can't." "I can still feel her," Mira smiled softly. "Then maybe that's what she feels too." Eli looked out at the stars and whispered, "She's not the monster they think she is." Mira nodded. "Maybe monsters are just the ones we never tried to understand." Outside, the station drifted through space like a lonely ship on an endless ocean. Inside, in Hangar 9, the mother dragon slept peacefully for the first time. Her hatchlings curled against her side, and in another room, a human janitor felt the echo of her dreams inside his own. A bond had formed, unseen, unbroken, and impossible. A connection that no scientist could measure, and no soldier could destroy. Days passed quietly after the strange bond was discovered. The space station returned to its routine, or tried to. The mother dragon no longer cried. Her hatchlings were healthy, and Eli continued to visit her every morning. Sitting near the glass, he spoke to her softly, and she responded with low hums like a voice too deep for words. The scientist took notes, the commander kept watch, but everyone knew the peace felt fragile. Like silence before a storm, Eli didn't know it yet. But that storm was already coming. It began with a flicker on the radar, a signal from the far edge of the sector. The communications officer frowned at the screen. "Unidentified contact approaching," she said. "Fast, no beacon, no ID." The commander walked over, his eyes narrowing. "Show me." The monitor glowed, showing a dark shape moving through the void. It wasn't a rock or a human ship, it was something larger, colder, alive in a way metal shouldn't be. As the ship drew closer, strange static filled the air. Every screen blinked, every light dimmed. A low hum echoed through the walls, deeper than the engines. The dragon inside Hangar 9 stirred. She lifted her head sharply, her eyes glowing with sudden fear. The hatchlings began to cry again, their voices trembling. The sensors in the hangar spiked, heat levels rising. Eli, who was cleaning the corridor outside, froze when he heard the cries. He dropped his tools and ran toward the sound. The commander shouted through the intercom, "Contain that creature." But when the doors opened, Eli was already there. The mother dragon's eyes locked onto him. Her wings twitched, and she let out a sound that wasn't anger. It was warning. Through their strange bond, Eli felt it too. A sharp flash of terror, images rushing into his mind. A burning world, dark ships, screams in the sky, and a symbol, carved in red light, the same shape now glowing on the enemy radar. Eli turned to the command screen and shouted, "They're coming for her." The room went silent. No one understood how he knew, but his voice carried certainty. Dr. Mira rushed to the console. Matching the signals, her face went pale. "He's right," she whispered. "The signature matches the one from her home planet." The commander's jaw tightened. "You're saying that's the same species who destroyed her world?" Yes, Mira said, and they found us. The alert sirens began to howl. The entire station shifted into battle protocol. Metal doors sealed, weapons armed, shields raised. The dragon roared inside the hangar, shaking the floor beneath their feet. The hatchlings hid under her wings, trembling. She knew the enemy before any machine could confirm it. Her cries turned from fear to fury. Echoing through every corridor, Eli stood by the glass, his hands pressed against it. He could feel her heart pounding through the air. "Please," he whispered. "Don't panic." But she wasn't panicking. She was warning him. Through the connection, flashes of emotion hit him. Danger, rage, sorrow, protection. He saw her mate dying in fire, her world collapsing. He saw dark ships taking her eggs, and her helpless screams. Eli gasped, tears filling his eyes. "They killed them," he whispered. She remembers. The enemy ship entered orbit above the dead planet. Its weapons glowed red, like veins of molten fire. Energy readings went off the charts. The commander barked orders. "Prepare the defense grid. Arm the drones." But deep down, everyone knew they were not ready for a war like this. The station was built for research, not for battle. Their only hope lay inside Hangar 9. Dr. Mira turned to Eli, her voice low but urgent. "She's scared for her young," she said. "If we fight them, she might break free. She could destroy this whole station." Eli shook his head slowly. "No, she won't. Not if she trusts us." The commander overheard and laughed bitterly. "You think that thing trusts anyone?" Eli didn't answer. He just looked through the glass. The dragon looked back at him, her chest glowing faintly with light. A low hum passed through the floor, not mechanical, but alive. The same resonance from before, stronger now, like a heartbeat echoing through metal. Outside, the enemy ship began to move closer. The radar showed multiple energy signatures, smaller ships detaching like dark wings. "They're sending boarding pods," a soldier shouted. The commander cursed and ordered the crew to their posts. Inside Hangar 9, the dragon began to thrash, her tail smashing against the walls. The lights flickered, alarms blared again. "Eli," Mira shouted, "get out of there." But he didn't. He walked toward the glass, slowly, calmly. The dragon's roar shook the hangar, and sparks rained from the ceiling. He raised his hand and she stopped moving. The hatchlings went silent again, watching him. Through the link, Eli felt her emotions like waves of fire and wind. She wasn't just scared. She was ready to fight. But she feared for her babies. She didn't want to lose them again. Eli whispered softly. "Then let us help you." The dragon tilted her head, staring at him. Her eyes burned with gold light. And for a moment, her thoughts brushed against his mind. A wordless message, clear as sunlight. "Protect them." The commander's voice came over the speakers. "All hands prepare for contact." The first explosion hit the hull, shaking the station violently. Eli stumbled but didn't fall, his eyes still locked on the dragon. Dr. Mira grabbed his arm. "We need to move." But Eli shook his head. "She's not the threat, they are." As the red lights flashed and alarms howled through the metal corridors, the unseen bond between human and dragon burned brighter. One born from grief, one born from loss, and both now stood on the edge of a new war. The enemy was coming. And soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when a human janitor and a mother dragon fought side by side. The first explosion shook the space station like thunder rolling through steel. Lights flickered, alarms screamed, and people ran through the corridors shouting orders. Outside the windows, the blackness of space burned red with fire from enemy weapons. The alien warship had arrived, huge, silent, and alive with crimson light pulsing across its hull. It looked less like a ship and more like a living creature made of metal and hate. Inside Hangar 9, the mother dragon roared. Her cry was so powerful it rattled every bolt in the floor. Her hatchlings screamed and huddled under her wings, trembling. She could sense them. The same creatures that had hunted her kind. The same ones that had burned her world and stolen her eggs. The same evil that had left her alone in a dying sky. Eli stood near the blast door, gripping the railing as the ground trembled. Smoke poured through vents as fires broke out along the walls. The crew was shouting over comms, their voices lost in the chaos. Dr. Mira's voice came through his earpiece, full of fear. "Eli, you need to evacuate. The hangar's losing pressure." But Eli didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the dragon. Her eyes were fixed on him. Through the connection that no one could explain, he felt her fear, but also her rage. And beneath that, her plea. She was begging him not to leave her babies behind. He took a step closer to the glass, shouting over the noise, "I won't let them take you, do you hear me?" The dragon's chest glowed brighter, her scales shimmering gold like a rising sun. Her roar changed pitch, no longer pain, but a war cry. The commander's voice echoed through the intercom. "All units, brace for breach, boarding pods incoming." And then the impact came. A deafening crash tore through the air as enemy pods slammed into the hull. Metal screamed, doors buckled, and the corridors filled with smoke. Enemy soldiers poured in, tall, dark insect-like beings in armor that glowed red. They moved fast and without sound, weapons burning with energy fire. The humans fought back with rifles and drones, but the attackers were stronger, faster, and unafraid to die. As the station shook again, the power grid in Hangar 9 failed. The containment shield flickered once and then vanished. The air filled with wind and sparks, and the mother dragon was free. She rose like a storm, wings spreading wide, knocking over machines and vehicles. Her roar became a weapon of sound, shattering glass and sending enemies flying. The red-armored invaders tried to fire, but her flame was faster. A river of white-hot fire engulfed the nearest squad, melting armor and steel. The hangar glowed orange with fury, but even through her rage, her golden eyes searched for one face, the human who had stood beside her. Eli ran into the hangar through a side door, covering his head from falling debris. Dr. Mira shouted after him, "Eli, stop! You'll die in there!" But he didn't listen. He couldn't. The hatchlings were trapped behind a collapsed barrier, crying, and the mother dragon couldn't reach them, her tail pinned by heavy metal crates. Eli sprinted through fire and smoke, coughing, blinded by heat. The ground cracked under him, but he kept moving. He crawled under the barrier, ignoring the pain slicing across his hands. The hatchling saw him and cried louder, recognizing him. Hey, it's all right," Eli said, his voice shaking. He lifted one small dragon into his arms, its scales hot against his skin. He grabbed the second and pulled it free from a tangle of wires. His arms burned, but he didn't stop. The third one whimpered weakly, trapped under a beam. Eli used all his strength to push it aside, muscles screaming in pain. Finally, the tiny creature rolled free. The mother dragon saw it and let out a roar so loud the metal shook. She tore the crates off her tail and smashed the remaining debris away. Her fire burned the invading soldiers to ash. Eli stumbled toward her. Holding the hatchlings close, the heat around him was unbearable, but a strange light surrounded him. A golden glow. It wasn't from the fire. It was coming from the dragons. They were protecting him, wrapping him in energy like a living shield. He stepped through the flames unharmed. The mother dragon lowered her head, her massive eyes filled with tears of fire. She let out a low sound, not a roar, but a soft hum that made the air vibrate. Eli felt it deep in his chest. A message without words. "You are one of us outside." The battle spread across the station. Human drones and security bots fought the invaders in the hallways. The commander barked orders from the bridge. Keep them away from Hangar 9. Protect the dragons at all costs. Dr. Mira ran to the monitors, watching as Eli and the dragon moved together. Her voice broke. "They're fighting as one." Another explosion tore through the left side of the station. The metal groaned, and gravity flickered. Eli fell to his knees but held the hatchlings tight. The dragon moved in front of him, spreading her wings like a wall of gold. Fire burst from her mouth, lighting the hangar in blinding light. When it faded, the attackers were gone, melted, shattered, erased. But the dragon was bleeding. Her side scorched and torn. Eli ran to her, falling against her huge neck. "No, stay with me," he said, his voice breaking. The dragon's eyes dimmed. Through their bond, he felt her pain like knives in his chest. But beneath the pain was something stronger. pride, and love. She had fought not for revenge, but for her young, and for the small human who refused to run. As emergency sirens wailed through the corridors, Eli stood beside her, his arms burned, his heart pounding. He looked at the smoking hangar around him and whispered, "You're not alone anymore." And for a brief moment amid the fire and chaos, a mother dragon and a human janitor stood side by side, not as captor and captive, but as protectors. Two souls bound by loss, courage, and something greater than either of them could understand. Smoke filled the corridors of the space station. Sparks rained from broken wires, and the sound of metal tearing echoed like thunder. Outside the windows, the void of space burned with light, missiles, plasma bursts, and trails of fire. The enemy ship circled like a predator, unleashing more pods filled with soldiers. The station groaned under the pressure, its hull cracking like ice under weight. In the heart of the chaos, inside Hangar 9, the mother dragon stood tall. Her golden scales were burned, her wings torn, but her eyes still blazed with fury. Eli stood beside her, his body bruised, his face covered in soot and sweat. The hatchlings huddled behind him, glowing faintly with the same light as their mother. The air was thick with heat, smoke, and the sound of the station falling apart. Dr. Mira's voice came through the static in Eli's earpiece. "Eli, you have to get out of there. The hangar's breaking apart." But Eli looked at the massive dragon beside him and shook his head. "She's not leaving," he said, his voice rough. "And neither am I." Through the shimmering haze, the mother dragon turned her head toward him. Their connection pulsed stronger than ever before. Eli felt her pain, her exhaustion, but also her strength. A single thought crossed his mind. "They're not done yet." The dragon growled low, her chest glowing brighter. Her scales shimmered, cracked, and began to blaze with golden fire. Outside, the alien ship powered up its main weapon, a massive cannon charged with red light, humming like a monster waking. The commander shouted across the bridge, "That blast will tear us apart. Divert shields to the core." But it was too late. The station couldn't take another hit. And deep inside Hangar 9, the mother dragon knew it. She stretched her wings, spreading them wide enough to touch the walls. Her roar rolled through the entire structure, shaking every deck. Crew members stopped and looked up as if the station itself was alive. Eli stumbled forward, clutching a handrail as the roar filled his mind. Through their link he saw flashes of thought, not words, but visions, a storm of stars, two worlds colliding, a river of light connecting them. He saw the dragon's people, proud, winged beings soaring through clouds of fire, and he saw her fall from the sky, the last of her kind, carrying her eggs through smoke and death. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "You're fighting for them, for all of them." The dragon's eyes glowed brighter. As if she understood, then something strange began to happen. The hatchlings' small bodies pulsed with golden light. Energy flowed from them into their mother, and from her, into Eli. The air shimmered like heat rising from sand. Every metal beam, every broken wire, every shattered window vibrated with invisible force. Dr. Mira, watching through the cameras, gasped. "What's happening to him?" Her screen showed Eli surrounded by light, his outline glowing faintly. His heart rate synced perfectly with the dragon's, two rhythms beating as one. Eli raised his hand slowly. He didn't know how, but he could feel the enemy ship outside. He could sense its weapons charging, its crew moving, its hatred pulsing through space. Through the dragon's eyes, he saw the shape of it, the same darkness that had destroyed her world. He clenched his fist and the dragon roared again. The air exploded in sound, the windows cracked, and the ground shook. Outside, the roar traveled through the void. It wasn't sound anymore. It was energy. A wave of light and vibration that rippled across the stars. The alien ship's red glow flickered as its systems went haywire. Their weapons jammed, their shields collapsed. The roar hit them like a storm, tearing through armor and circuits alike. Half the enemy fleet went dark in seconds. Their hulls shattered, their engines burst like dying suns. The station crew watched in disbelief. "Is that her?" someone whispered. The commander stared at the view screen, speechless. "She's defending us," Dr. Mira said softly, tears in her eyes. "She and Eli, they're doing this together." Inside Hangar 9, Eli felt the power burn through him. It wasn't painful, it was alive, wild, ancient. The dragon's light surrounded him, turning him into a silhouette of gold. He could feel her thoughts clearer than ever. Her rage, her love, her memories. They weren't two beings anymore. They were one will, one roar, one purpose. When the enemy ship tried to recover, the dragon took flight. She smashed through the hangar doors, metal ripping apart like paper. Eli grabbed onto her neck. Holding tight as they soared into space, for the first time she flew free, wings glowing brighter than the stars around them. The station shrank below, a silver scar against the black sky. Eli looked down in awe. He could breathe. He could see everything. He was flying with her. The mother dragon roared once more, her voice echoing across the cosmos. It wasn't just a cry of war, it was a song. A sound that told every world listening that she was not extinct. Her kind lived on, and humanity stood beside her. The enemy ship fired one last desperate blast. The red beam cut through the darkness toward them. But the dragon spun, wrapping her wings around Eli and her young. Her body became pure light. The beam struck him and exploded. The force lit up the system like a sunrise. The shockwave rippled for miles. But when it faded, the enemy fleet was gone. Back on the station, the crew watched the scanners. Hearts racing. Where are they? Someone cried. The screen flickered and a shape appeared out of the light. The mother dragon. Wings spread wide, flying slowly through the glowing dust. And there, holding tightly to her scales, was Eli alive. Dr. Mira covered her mouth, whispering, "He did it." They both did. The dragon glided back toward the damaged station, her eyes glowing soft gold. The roar that had destroyed the enemy now faded into a hum, a sound of peace, of unity. The humans in the station lowered their weapons for the first time. They didn't see a monster, they saw a guardian. As the hangar doors opened once again, Eli stepped down onto the broken floor. His legs weak, his hands trembling, but his heart steady. He looked back at her and the mother dragon. Battered but alive, she lowered her head close to him. Her eyes said everything words could not. Together, they had roared for two worlds, one of dragons, one of men, and for a moment in the endless dark of space, both hearts beat as one.